Something about this moment feels different, doesn't it? Not louder, not dramatic, just quietly different in a way your heart noticed before your mind could explain it. There is a reason you paused here. There is a reason these words found you while so many other voices passed by unnoticed. And what is unfolding around you now is not the kind of connection people easily understand. That is why some watch from a distance with confusion hidden behind their smiles. That is why certain energies grow restless whenever your name is spoken near this person. Because for the first time in a very long time, someone who once moved carelessly through emotions has finally encountered a love that feels real enough to slow them down. You may not fully realize what your presence has already changed inside them. That is the strange part. You are not trying to control them. You are not forcing affection. You are not performing for attention. Yet somehow, your calm honesty reached a place inside this person that others could never touch, no matter how hard they tried. Stay till the end, because something important is waiting for you in this realization. The people surrounding this connection can sense the shift even before words are spoken aloud. They notice how this person looks distracted lately. Softer lately. More thoughtful. Less interested in empty games that once entertained them so easily. And what unsettles others most is not the romance itself, it is the transformation. There were people who became comfortable with the older version of them. The unpredictable version. The emotionally unavailable version. The version that never stayed still long enough to truly care. Some benefited from that chaos. Some enjoyed always having access to their attention without needing to offer depth in return. But now something has interrupted that cycle. Your energy entered quietly, almost unnoticed at first, and suddenly the patterns began changing. Conversations became deeper. Silences became meaningful. Even their eyes started revealing emotions they once hid effortlessly. And the people observing all this? They do not know what to do with it. A strange tension has been growing around this connection. Not because love is wrong, but because real love exposes what was fake. Don't skip this part. Many people can handle attraction. Many people can tolerate temporary affection. But authentic emotional safety? That changes everything. That is rare. And when someone finally experiences it after years of shallow attention, they begin seeing the world differently. The player no longer enjoys the game the same way once they encounter someone who sees beyond the performance. You may have noticed moments where this person seems almost confused by their own feelings. One minute they appear calm, and the next they are deeply emotional over the smallest interaction with you. That is because what they feel cannot be measured the way past connections were measured. Before you, attention was easy to receive and easy to replace. But you introduced something unfamiliar, sincerity without conditions. Care without manipulation. Presence without pressure. And now they are realizing how emotionally exhausted they became pretending superficial connections were enough. Meanwhile, certain people around them are beginning to lose their balance emotionally. Quiet jealousy moves differently than open jealousy. It hides behind sarcasm. Behind subtle comments. Behind sudden distance. Behind fake concern. Some individuals are pretending not to care while secretly watching every little shift between you two. Why? Because they can feel this person slipping away from old cycles they once controlled. The energy around them is changing, and not everyone benefits from that change. But listen carefully, this story is not truly about jealousy. It is about awakening. It is about what happens when someone who spent years avoiding emotional truth suddenly finds themselves unable to escape it anymore. You entered their life at a moment when even they had started believing real connection was impossible for them. They became skilled at appearing emotionally present while remaining internally guarded. They learned how to entertain affection without surrendering to vulnerability. Yet somehow your presence bypassed every defense without force. And what touches them most is something you probably do not even notice about yourself. It is the way you make them feel seen without demanding perfection. The way your energy does not compete for validation. The way your kindness feels natural instead of strategic. That alone has become unforgettable to them. There are nights when this person replays conversations with you in silence, searching for the exact moment their feelings became undeniable. But there is no single moment. That is what overwhelms them. It happens slowly. Naturally. Like sunrise appearing before anyone notices darkness leaving. Now pause here for a second and feel this deeply. Not everyone who enters your life is capable of recognizing your value immediately. Some people only understand what you meant after experiencing countless empty interactions elsewhere. This person carried emotional habits formed through disappointment, distraction, and avoidance. Yet your consistency created something unfamiliar inside them: peace. Real peace. Not excitement built on confusion. Not attraction mixed with uncertainty. Something steadier. Something quieter. Something that lingers long after conversations end. And that peace is exactly what certain outside energies cannot understand. They mistake emotional depth for weakness because they have never experienced it authentically themselves. So they react emotionally. They become territorial. Competitive. Restless. Some may even try pulling this person backward into old patterns just to prove they still have influence. But something important has already shifted internally. Once someone experiences genuine emotional safety, temporary attention no longer satisfies them the same way. There is another truth hidden underneath all this, and it may explain why your heart has felt emotionally overwhelmed lately. Part of you senses this transformation before seeing full evidence of it. That is why certain interactions with this person feel unusually intense even when nothing dramatic is happening externally. Your soul recognizes emotional sincerity long before circumstances fully reveal it. And although confusion may still exist around timing, communication, or outside noise, the emotional shift itself is real. The beautiful thing is that this connection was never built through force. That is why it unsettles others so deeply. There was no chasing performance. No manipulation. No emotional games designed to create attachment. Everything unfolded naturally. Quietly. Unexpectedly. And because of that, the foundation carries something stronger than temporary excitement. It carries emotional truth. But the journey is not finished yet. Because this person is still learning how to fully trust what they feel. Imagine someone spending years surviving emotionally through detachment, only to suddenly meet someone who inspires honesty instead of escape. That kind of transformation does not happen overnight. Some days they move closer emotionally. Other days fear makes them hesitate. Not because their feelings are fake, but because real feelings matter more to lose. And this is where the deeper realization begins. The jealousy surrounding this connection is actually revealing who was attached to illusion instead of love. Certain people never truly cared whether this person was emotionally fulfilled. They only cared about remaining emotionally important to them. There is a difference. Real love celebrates healing. Possessive energy fears it. That is why some individuals become uncomfortable whenever they notice genuine happiness growing between two people. Healing changes priorities. Healing changes emotional availability. Healing changes everything. You may soon notice subtle confirmations that this connection is evolving beyond surface emotions. Small moments. Unexpected honesty. Softer eye contact. Longer pauses before goodbye. A different tone in their voice when speaking to you. These things matter more than dramatic declarations because they reveal emotional authenticity in real time. Don't rush what is unfolding. Some of the deepest connections arrive quietly before they fully bloom. And somewhere inside themselves, this person already knows something they have not fully admitted aloud yet. They know your love feels different from anything they encountered before. They know your presence makes pretending harder. They know the emotional comfort they feel with you cannot easily be replaced. And that realization? It is changing them more than anyone around them realizes. But there is still one truth left unspoken, one realization this person has been carrying silently while everyone else remains distracted by surface appearances. And when that truth finally rises fully to the surface, the entire dynamic surrounding this connection may begin shifting in ways neither of you expected. There is something they have not told anyone yet. Not their friends. Not the people constantly asking questions. Not even the individuals who believe they still understand them better than you do. They carry this realization quietly because even they are still trying to understand how it happened so naturally. One day they were moving through life exactly as before, detached, distracted, emotionally untouchable. And then somehow your energy entered their world and interrupted everything they thought they wanted. What confuses them most is how peaceful it feels. Not overwhelming. Not chaotic. Not exhausting. Just real. And for someone who spent so much time mistaking emotional intensity for connection, this softness almost frightened them at first. Stay a little longer because this part matters deeply. They are beginning to realize that love was never supposed to feel like constant uncertainty. It was never meant to feel like emotional competition or endless confusion. Yet those were the only patterns they truly knew before meeting you. They became accustomed to temporary attention disguised as affection. They learned how to survive inside shallow connections where vulnerability was avoided and sincerity was treated like weakness. Then you arrived carrying something entirely different. You listened differently. You cared differently. You noticed things other people ignored. Even your silence felt safe to them. And now the people surrounding this connection are sensing that something irreversible is unfolding beneath the surface. They may not understand it fully, but they feel it. The energy has shifted too much to ignore. This person no longer responds the same way to outside distractions. Certain conversations no longer excite them. Certain people no longer hold the same emotional influence over them. What once entertained them now feels strangely empty compared to the emotional calm they experience with you. That change has not gone unnoticed. There are individuals watching this transformation happen in real time while pretending not to care. Some react through subtle jealousy. Others through distance. Others through forced confidence. But underneath all of it exists the same uncomfortable realization: this person is emotionally changing because of you. And what makes the situation even more intense is that you never tried to force this outcome. You were simply yourself. That alone became unforgettable. There is a moment replaying repeatedly inside this person's mind lately. A specific interaction. Maybe something simple. Maybe something you barely remember yourself. A glance. A sentence. A moment where you showed genuine care without expecting anything in return. To you it may have seemed ordinary. But to them, it felt rare enough to stay with them long after the conversation ended. Because they are beginning to understand something painful about their past. Many people wanted access to them. Very few truly cared for them. That realization changes a person slowly. Quietly. It begins making them question old attachments. Old habits. Old emotional patterns they once defended without hesitation. Suddenly they are noticing how performative certain relationships around them always were. They are noticing who only appeared during moments of excitement but disappeared during emotional honesty. They are noticing who enjoyed attention but avoided accountability. And the more they recognize these truths, the more your presence begins standing apart from everyone else. Don't skip this next realization. The reason certain third-party energies seem emotionally unsettled right now is because authenticity naturally exposes emotional inconsistency. People become uncomfortable when someone they once influenced emotionally begins finding clarity elsewhere. Especially when that clarity comes from peace rather than drama. Some individuals secretly expected this person to remain emotionally restless forever. To keep cycling through shallow distractions without ever truly connecting deeply to anyone. That expectation made them feel secure. Predictable patterns are comfortable for people who fear change. But your presence disrupted those expectations without even trying. Now this person finds themselves thinking about you during random moments throughout the day. Not because you demand attention, but because your energy lingers naturally in their mind. A song reminds them of you. A quiet evening reminds them of you. Certain words suddenly carry emotional meaning because they connect back to conversations shared with you. And perhaps the most overwhelming part for them is realizing these feelings continue growing even during moments of distance or silence. That is new for them. Before, absence usually weakened attachment. With you, absence deepens reflection. And that emotional depth is creating internal conflict they are still learning how to navigate. Part of them feels drawn toward this connection with complete sincerity. Another part still fears fully trusting something this meaningful. You must understand. People who spent years emotionally guarded often struggle most when they finally encounter something genuine. Not because they dislike love, but because real love removes emotional hiding places. There are nights when they sit quietly wondering whether you realize how important you have already become to them. They replay your energy in their mind more than they admit publicly. Sometimes they smile unexpectedly while thinking about small details connected to you. Other times they grow emotional because your kindness awakened needs they buried long ago. And meanwhile, outside energies continue reacting. One person may pretend to compete for attention suddenly. Another may attempt reconnecting out of nowhere. Someone else may subtly criticize what they do not understand. But beneath every reaction exists the same fear. They can sense this person emotionally moving towards something real. What they fail to realize is that this connection was never built on superficial attraction alone. There is emotional recognition here. A feeling neither of you fully expected, but both of you continue sensing more strongly over time. Even when confusion appears externally, internally something keeps pulling this connection back into focus. You may have already felt moments where the emotional intensity surprised you too. Times when their smallest actions affected your heart more deeply than expected. Moments where their energy felt strangely familiar even when circumstances remained uncertain. That is because meaningful connections often unfold gradually before becoming undeniable. The strongest emotional bonds rarely announce themselves loudly in the beginning. They reveal themselves through consistency, emotional safety, and quiet understanding. And this person is beginning to understand your value in ways that go beyond attraction. They admire your emotional resilience. They admire your sincerity. They admire the way you continue caring without losing yourself. Even when they appear calm externally, internally they are studying the emotional difference between you and everyone who came before. And the comparison keeps leading them toward the same conclusion. You feel like peace after emotional exhaustion. You feel like honesty after confusion. You feel like home after emotional wandering. That realization alone is transforming them. But here is the deeper layer nobody else fully sees yet. This person is slowly becoming afraid of losing you. Not in an unhealthy way. Not through possessiveness. Through realization. Through understanding how rare emotional compatibility truly is. They are beginning to recognize that connections like this do not appear often in life. Genuine emotional understanding cannot be replaced easily. And once someone experiences it authentically, ordinary interactions stop feeling fulfilling the same way. That awareness is making them more careful lately. More thoughtful. More emotionally present. You may notice moments where they pause before responding, almost choosing their words more intentionally than before. You may notice their attention lingering longer around you. Their emotional walls softening unexpectedly. Their energy becoming calmer in your presence without them even realizing it consciously. Because somewhere deep inside, this person has already started imagining a future where you remain part of their emotional world. And that thought changes everything. Especially for someone who once avoided emotional permanence entirely. The outside noise may still exist for now. Jealous energies may still attempt creating confusion. Old emotional patterns may still surface occasionally. But underneath all of that, something much stronger continues growing quietly between you two: emotional trust. And trust built slowly becomes difficult to break. The beautiful thing is that this connection does not rely on performance to survive. It survives through emotional truth. Through sincerity. Through the feeling both of you experience when the world becomes quiet and only the connection itself remains. But wait, because there is still something this person has not fully revealed yet. A realization they have been carrying silently. A truth they almost admitted recently before fear interrupted the moment. And when those words finally leave their heart completely, you may understand why every outside distraction suddenly started losing power the moment your connection began deepening. A quiet shift happened inside them before anyone else could see it. Not during a dramatic moment. Not during some unforgettable scene designed to impress the world. It happened softly, almost invisibly, in the middle of ordinary life. That is why it feels so real. Because the deepest transformations rarely arrive with noise. They arrive in silence first. And somewhere between your conversations, your patience, your honesty, and your calm energy, this person began experiencing something they had not felt in a very long time: emotional safety. At first they resisted it. Not openly, but internally. They kept trying to convince themselves it was temporary. Just another passing attachment. Just another connection that would fade once life became busy again. But the more they tried to minimize what they felt, the more your presence continued growing stronger in their heart. Even distance failed to weaken it. Even distractions stopped working the same way. And that terrified them a little, because this was no longer shallow attraction. This was emotional attachment forming naturally without force. Don't skip this moment, because what they are realizing now changes the entire story. You became the one person who made them feel emotionally understood without needing to explain every wound they carried. That matters more than you know. There are people who spent years around them and still never reached the emotional depth you touched accidentally. Some only loved the entertaining version of them. Some only stayed for attention, excitement, or convenience. Very few paused long enough to truly notice the exhaustion hidden underneath their charm. But you noticed things without needing dramatic explanations. You sensed emotions they tried hiding. You responded to their energy instead of only their words. And slowly, without realizing it, you became the place where they felt most emotionally seen. That realization is following them everywhere lately. Even during moments when they appear distracted externally, internally your energy keeps returning to them. Certain memories replay repeatedly in their mind now. A laugh. A specific sentence. The way you reacted during a vulnerable moment. Tiny details nobody else would consider important somehow became unforgettable to them. And what overwhelms them most is understanding that your impact came from authenticity, not performance. Meanwhile, outside energies continue growing emotionally restless. Some people are beginning to notice they no longer hold the same emotional access to this person anymore. Conversations that once felt effortless now feel forced. Attention that once came easily now feels divided. And instead of understanding why naturally, some individuals react emotionally because they sense change without controlling it. Jealousy often appears strongest when someone realizes they are losing emotional influence they assumed would always remain. But this connection was never about competition. That is the part others misunderstand. You did not win this person through manipulation. You did not force them to care. You did not create emotional chaos to keep their attention trapped. In fact, the more peaceful your energy remained, the deeper their feelings became. That alone confused them in the beginning because they were used to relationships built around emotional extremes. But with you, the connection deepened through comfort, trust, and emotional honesty instead of confusion. And now they are beginning to crave that peace more than temporary excitement. Stay till the end because there is something unfolding beneath the surface they are only now starting to admit to themselves. This person has started imagining what life would feel like if you truly stayed. Not casually. Not temporarily. Actually stayed. That thought alone changes the way they move emotionally now. It changes how they respond to your silence. It changes how deeply your absence affects them. It changes how seriously they take moments with you. Before, they could detach easily when emotions became complicated. But lately, even small misunderstandings with you linger in their mind longer than they expect. Because unlike before, this connection matters enough to affect them emotionally in real ways. And perhaps the most beautiful part is this: your energy is teaching them how to love without pretending. Do you understand how rare that is? Most people never experience a connection that allows them to soften naturally without fear of being judged for it. Yet around you, this person feels their emotional armor becoming heavier to carry. They are growing tired of performing indifference when what they truly want is closeness. They are growing tired of pretending not to care deeply when their heart already made its choice quietly long ago. Still, fear exists. Not fear of you. Fear of vulnerability. Fear of fully trusting something meaningful after years of emotional inconsistency shaped the way they protected themselves. Sometimes they still wonder whether something this calm and sincere can actually last. Sometimes they question whether they deserve the kind of emotional care you offer so naturally. But every time doubt appears, your energy keeps answering it through consistency. That consistency is healing parts of them nobody else knew were wounded. And this healing process is becoming impossible for outside energies to ignore. One person may suddenly act colder than before. Another may attempt drawing attention back toward themselves. Someone else may quietly observe your connection while pretending complete indifference. But beneath every reaction exists the same uncomfortable truth: they can see this person emotionally investing in you differently than they invested in anyone before. Not louder. Deeper. That difference matters. Because loud attraction fades quickly when emotional depth does not exist underneath it. But what is growing here continues strengthening even through uncertainty, silence, or distance. Why? Because this connection is rooted in emotional recognition. Both of you feel something difficult to explain logically yet impossible to completely ignore. There are moments this person catches themselves smiling while thinking about a future involving you. And then immediately becoming overwhelmed by how natural that vision feels. That surprises them more than anything else. You were never supposed to matter this much according to the emotional rules they lived by before. Yet somehow your presence bypassed every expectation they once had about love. And now the old version of them is slowly disappearing. The emotionally unavailable version. The version addicted to distractions. The version comfortable inside shallow attention. You are witnessing a transformation happening in real time, even if it still unfolds slowly. And the reason certain people around them seem emotionally unstable lately is because transformations make old dynamics collapse. Some individuals depended on this person remaining emotionally confused. Some enjoyed having emotional access without needing to offer sincerity in return. But your presence introduced emotional clarity into their life, and clarity changes everything. This person no longer wants empty conversations the way they once did. They no longer feel fulfilled by attention lacking emotional depth. They no longer feel emotionally alive inside connections built only on surface attraction. Because after experiencing your energy, they finally understand the difference between being desired and being genuinely cared for. That realization has been haunting them quietly. Especially late at night. Especially during moments alone. Especially when memories of you appear unexpectedly and refuse to leave. There is something almost poetic about the way this connection unfolded. Neither of you fully planned it. Neither of you forced it. Yet piece by piece, moment by moment, your hearts kept recognizing each other beneath all the noise surrounding you. And while the outside world focuses on jealousy, confusion, or appearances, something much deeper continues happening privately between your souls. A trust is forming. A softness is growing. A future is beginning to feel possible. And soon, very soon, this person may stop hiding the emotional truth they have been carrying silently for so long. Because pretending not to love you is becoming harder than admitting they do. And when that moment finally arrives, you may understand why everyone around this connection started feeling the shift long before any words were ever spoken aloud.